Oh, hi, how are you? This, as you probably read from the title and description, is my response video or opinion video or however that works to Vince's topic of the week, which is in this situation, what was the first time you saw a grown man naked? Oh, what's that? No, that's not the subject at all. No. What my first how I got into Warhammer. Oh, ooh, awkward. Well, darn, there goes a Boy Scout story you guys would have enjoyed. Anyway, no. No, his actual topic is how did you first get into Warhammer? Or how he puts it is something along the lines of when did you start Warhammering? And well, that just sounded dirty, so I went with it. Anyway, I'm here to tell you that first of all, I normally don't do these videos, especially the heavy hitting subjects that he hits, because honestly, sharing your opinion on the internet is a lot like dropping your pants in the middle of a party. A lot of people are going to see what you have to give, most of which don't want to know, and the rest of them are going to judge you negatively for it. So rather than invite all that, I usually just kind of listen to everybody else's and judge them accordingly. So yeah, and that's the way I stay above it all. That and I'm inherently lazy and stuff like that. So anyway, how when I saw his video on this one, Vince, it was a genius topic. I love seeing and hearing about how people got into Warhammer, and my story is kind of fun. It has some bumps, and yeah, I was like, yeah, this is worth. I think I've talked about it on Warhammer Weekly before and such, but I'll talk about it again because I kind of like the sound of my own voice and stuff like that. So if you clicked on this, apparently you like something that I have to say. So how did I first get into Warhammering? Well, there was a fifth of cocaine, two and a half dead strippers, and at least three or four felonies being well, maybe six felonies being committed at the time. I had nothing to do with any of that, but I'm sure that's what was happening in the world. I was actually at work on a weekend. We weren't supposed to be in, but we got called in. It was me and this guy that I'd known. I'd worked with him for a couple of months, but you don't really know him. He was an acquaintance, and I happened to be running the shift because it was the weekend. Nobody else really wanted to do it. And he called me up and he asked if he could bring in some models to put together and paint. And since it was going to be a 12-hour shift, I was like, sure, we're not really doing anything, go right ahead. I had no idea what he's talking about. When he said models, I thought he meant something along the lines of like a toy car, a toy boat, toy plane, maybe, some sort of sculpture. I had no idea. And I really didn't care. I was just like, whatever. I was pretty big into World of Warcraft at the time, so I was just playing. I was going to read my little strategy guides and all that other stuff while we were there. And if any work came up, we were going to knock that out. But more than likely, it wouldn't. So he comes in and he's got the 7th edition starter kit or whatever. What was it? The goblins and the dwarves, I think it was. Whichever one it was. And he had the goblins because he was playing at the time he was putting together orcs and goblins, but it was all goblins because, they're appealing. And I was looking at his stuff, and of course, I had to put on the front, and I was like, "What is this? What are you doing?" And he showed me the books and everything like that. His army book, the big red book at the time, the 7th edition, the big hardback one, and everything like that. And his little floppy orcs and goblins book back before they were hardcover. And I had nothing else to do. So I read through the books and I watched him put together some of the models. And this was 2007. So this was way back when, the models, the boxes came with the little advertisement in it where they had the different armies or whatever. And I was looking at that. I was like, this is dumb, dude. You just put this together and then push the models across the table and roll dice and determine how it's done. That's ridiculous, blah blah blah. And the guy, I think I embarrassed him a little bit, but he was like, "You should go check out the store, yada yada yada." So at first I didn't. I was like, "Nah, no, I'm too cool for that. I play World of Warcraft. I'm a high class nerd. No, I wear collared shirts." And but he kind of put the seed in my very empty melon, and I thought about it for a solid 8, 9 hours. I read all of the books that he had, his Orcs and Goblins Army book and the Big Red book, cover to cover, for the most part. Not every word for word or whatever. I skipped a lot of it that didn't make any sense at the time, but I really liked the fluff a lot. So I was looking at the armies on the little advertisement sheet that comes with the box of models, and I'm like, Bretonnians sound neat. I always did kind of like the whole knights thing, and lizardmen look neat. So I was really tossing it up in the air. So after work was over, I came home and told the whole thing to my wife, who was I think we had been married 2, 3 months at the time. I mean, not the best time in the world to tell her, well, I know you knew I was an internet geek, but you don't know the depravity. I mean, talk about 50 Shades of Nerd. Ooh, baby. But I told her what I wanted to go and do, and she supported it because she's a good woman. So the next day, I drove over to the local store and didn't know anybody. Walked in there as just green as you could be, and the guy who was running at the time was a good guy. And I just told him, I just heard about Warhammer Fantasy. I read a couple of books. The guy that plays, I gave him his name, and he had no idea who I was talking about. But when I described, what he had just done or what he had bought and all that other stuff, he did remember the guy buying a whole bunch of that stuff. So a bunch of Orcs and Goblins stuff, mostly Goblins, the Army book, the BRB, all that stuff. So he did remember that, and he was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Well, there just so happened, as luck would have it, that a couple of guys were playing a game. And it was, I'll never forget, it was a Orcs and Goblins army, I know, coincidence, and a Chaos army, a Mortals of Chaos, Warriors of Chaos army. And there was a whole bunch of goblins up on a hill, and there was a little goblin shaman in there, and he fired off some spell that took this unit of 20 guys down to a unit of about 6 guys. And then in the next magic phase, the Warriors of Chaos guys one of them must have had the Lore of Fire, because he fired a fireball at that same unit of goblins and blew up like 6 of them, which caused a panic check, and they ran off the table. And I was hooked because it played out in my head. Like the whole thing, I saw the fireballs. I saw whatever little orky magic spell he fired off, his little shaman fired off and killed a whole bunch of mortals with the close combat. I could hear the swords hitting the shields and stuff. Oh yeah, I need clinical help. I'm well aware of this, but it was really, really cool. The guys that were playing really didn't say a whole lot to me. They weren't rude or anything, but they were concentrating on their game. They didn't mind me watching. They didn't mind me asking questions or anything like that. I got real confused why a unit facing north couldn't attack the unit that was an inch away to the east, and they said something about line of sight, which of course went way over my head at the time. So I walked back over to the guy who was running the store at the time, and I said, I've been toying with going after either Bretonnians or Lizardmen. And the guy said, well, I would go with Lizardmen because the Bretonnians haven't had an update forever. So I was like, okay, well, I like the Lizardmen and stuff like that. And that's when I saw the Stegodon model. That big metal nightmare. I saw that, and I was like, that's cool. Do the Bretonnians have anything like that? And he goes, no, the biggest model they have is like a trebuchet or whatever. And catapults didn't really appeal to me. So I was like, big, terrifying Stegodon model. Some Saurus Warrior. I bought probably close to $200 worth of models. I got the Army book. I got a Stegodon. I got 6 Pterodons, I think they were. Yeah, because I had this dream of having like 10 of them just soaring through the air. I had no clue. I bought 2 boxes of Skinks, a whole bunch of Saurus Warriors, and I think that was it for my initial purchase. And then I went home, and I devoured the Army book. I must have read every single page. I was going to get a BRB, but they didn't have one, so he put one on back order, and that was that. So I put together the Stegodon, and that was the first time in my life I had super glued my fingers together, because I don't know if anybody, I'm sure some of you that are watching this have put together the metal Stegodon, the old one, and it kind of like goes together like a sandwich, the 2 sides. Well, I put a ton of super glue on there, like way more than I needed. And you remember the old metal models never really lined up right. So I'm holding it together like this, something like this. And it finally stuck, and I went and I put it down kind of like that so that it would open, so that it would come out of my hand onto the table. And when I went like this, these fingers came apart, these came apart, and these stayed together like this. Imagine my shock. So I learned all about solvents and stuff like that. And yeah, there's all sorts of stuff you can get at hardware stores to make your hands come to get apart. For the most part, I was able to get my fingers apart with hot water and scalding the stuff out of my fingers. And I had a little razor blade and I cut through like that first layer of skin just to get them apart. But I went to the hardware store like this, and I got the solvent, and it came off. As you can see, I'm good. I'm good. 10, 10. So yeah, yeah, it was something else. And then I put together the rest of the models that were mainly plastic and stuff like that. The pterodons were a little bit of a pain in the ass, but I had like 6 of them, and I was so excited, and had no idea about composition of armies or anything like that. So my next pay period comes around about a week later, and I go back over to the store and I buy a whole bunch of stuff. Chameleons. What else did I get? I got a Slan because I just thought he looked cool. I got the chameleons for the same reason, and I got something else. I can't remember what else I got, but I bought a whole bunch of stuff, and I was all excited about it. And so I had like 20 or 30 Saurus warriors, a whole bunch of little skinks, regular skinks, some chameleons. I go back home, I put them together. I got a phone call. My BRB came in, so I ran out, I bought that, came back to the house, read through all that, found out about army compositions and stuff like that. Read more about the lizard men, because the fluff that was in there. Learned about the old ones and all this other stuff, and the Lustria thing. Oh, I was so excited. And that's when I realized I needed more Saurus warriors in order to flesh out. I needed 3 units of core because back in the day it was you needed 3 units. And I had 1 unit of skinks, I had 1 unit of 20 Saurus warriors, but in order to play a game, I needed 3 units of core. So I had to get more Saurus warriors because I didn't want that many skinks because I've never been a good player. So I it's like 2 weeks, a week or two later. No, it's 2 weeks later. It's payday again. I've got some more disposable income, so I go back over to the store, and the store is almost completely packed up. It was closing. After being in business for like 13 years, something happened, I don't know what, and they closed. So here I am with all this army, and I'm like, well, crap. So I ran into a couple of the other guys that played fantasy, and they're like, "Don't worry about it. Somebody's already working on opening a new store. Should only be a few months. Yada yada yada. In the meantime, you can play practice games. You can do some garage hammering and stuff like that." So the original guy that I met at work, that got me into it, and his buddy were already playing. And his buddy had been playing Tomb Kings, if you can believe it. This is back when they read all their magic from scrolls. Everything was a bound power level, whatever scroll. They couldn't irresistible force, but they couldn't miscast. So that was kind of neat. And the other guy had traded in his orcs and goblins and started playing Skaven, and then I had my lizardmen army. So I was, let's play, blah, blah, blah. And the guy had this garage. It was this big, huge, like 6-car garage on his property that we could play in and everything like that. It was heated and air conditioned. So, we were living large. The only problem is we get over to his place, and he has like a big cork board down on the concrete floor to play on. And that just didn't sit right. So we went to work and we pilfered a bunch of old wood, and we built our first table that was way, way oversized. And we went to the model store and we got that green carpet stuff that it's like real. It's sturdy but real short, like stubby grass, plastic grass that gets everywhere. To this day, I'm still finding it on some of my older models. And we played every Saturday. We'd go over there and we play in his garage until like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd get there after work by about 5, and we'd play till 3 in the morning, and I'd have to drive like the 40 minutes back to my house. It was awesome. And then we met some guys prior to the next door opening that ended up coming over to the garage to play a game or two with us. And one of them was Death Holy Death. That's how I met him. And the other one was, we'll just call him Big Beardy Guy. And yeah, I haven't done any battle reports with him because he moved out of town before I started doing battle reports like that. Probably to save face. And they taught us how to play because we were playing so wrong, it was ridiculous. Um, Units back in 7th edition would block line of sight. We had no idea. If like I said before, a unit's facing north and there's a unit right next to it, face to your east there. As long as there was only an inch apart and you could make the charge, we were turning and charging. Line of sight meant nothing. Negatives to shoot. We had no idea about any of that crap. So really, they taught me the rules and stuff like that. The other two guys, they no longer live in this area and they stopped playing long ago because reasons and stuff like that. But I've obviously stayed strong. A new store opened up and met a bunch of really cool guys. I ended up giving up the Lizardmen for Dark Elves, if you can believe it. I played Dark Elves for a little while because I fell in love with Executioners. I really like the idea of Executioners. I love the old models. The new models are great too, don't get me wrong. But I really like the Executioners, and so I had this big brick of like 30 before Horde bricks were cool because I'm the hipster guy. But then I ran into a guy who was playing Ogre Kingdoms, and that really appealed to me a lot. So after selling the Lizardmen and finishing off my Dark Elf list, I sold the Dark Elf list on eBay to somebody in Canada who, strangely enough, contacted me shortly afterwards because I had made the Dark Riders. I paint terribly, and it was really bad back then. But I had made the fast cav zebras just because I thought it was cool, and it was a neat little thing to see. People really enjoyed it, and it was funny. Quick short story. After I sold the Dark Elves to somebody up in Canada, I guess they took them to some tournament or whatever where there was a paint competition, and they actually won something for painting because of the zebras. And I got this message on eBay from this individual saying, "Listen, I went to this thing up here. I won this thing. It's yours if you want it." And I was like, "That's your army now. Enjoy it." But yeah, that was yes, I'm so cool. I don't even get my awards. So, no, I just thought that was kind of funny, and I threw that in there as a gift for you because I'm gonna ramble for a while. Damn it, it's my confessional. So there. But yeah, after selling the Dark Elves, the Lizardmen went, and so I had all this cash, and I spent like $600 on ogres back in 7th edition, and I made a mess out of it. I love those ogres, and I played them for better part of a year, little over a year, and then the new Warriors of Chaos book came out, the one prior to the one that we're currently using. And I liked Zinch. I liked all the fluff about Zinch. I liked the idea. Warriors of Chaos looked amazing. They still look amazing. And so after over a year, I sold the Ogre Kingdoms on eBay. It took exactly 5 minutes to have somebody buy them out for about $450, which was awesome. Sold those, and then I spent over $500 on Warriors of Chaos. Just all of it mine now. And I played Warriors of Chaos for a long time, probably another year, 2 years or so. And then I decided to try other things out. I got Demons of Chaos and played them. Sold my Warriors of Chaos, my old ones. Played Demons of Chaos for a little while. Kind of got bored of Demons, and so I sold them, and I bought an Orcs and Goblins list, and I played them for a while, probably 8, 9 months, and then the new Warriors of Chaos book dropped. And I had no problems with my Orcs and Goblins list because that was around the time that I started getting into YouTube battle reports. Not me doing them, but me watching them. And I watched Mr. Malorian's channel religiously. Like some of y'all go to church. I checked YouTube every day for a new Malorian video. Through Malorian, I started seeing the Sustainable Center. Through Sustainable Center, I saw Once Bitten, and those were the godfathers for me. Those guys were the prophets of Warhammer. What they said was gold wrapped in platinum, served on latium. It's just perfect. And so I watched them constantly, and I never really commented on any of their channels or anything like that because I just didn't have anything really to say. I didn't think I could contribute in any way other than thumbs up and subscribing. So that's how I got the idea of YouTube battle reports, never to do it myself, just because I really enjoyed watching theirs. And Malorian taught me a lot about orcs and goblins, and it was neat. But I dropped them for Wars of Chaos when the hardback came out because Zinch was calling. And shortly after I started getting back into Warriors of Chaos, maybe 4 or 5 months after I got into them, is when I started doing battle reports, just simply because I wanted to do them for like a running journal. Because believe it or not, I actually want to do well when I go to GTs, and I figured by having a journal to document my games and stuff like that, I would be able to better learn from my mistakes, see where things went wrong, see how things, were developing, and just kind of something neat to do. And I could do my hobby at home as well, instead of just having to wait until Tuesdays and Saturdays to go over to the nerd store and nerd it up. Because I don't like waiting. I'm a very impatient person. So doing battle reports at home was something I could do. I could still interact with my family, and my wife, didn't threaten to murder me in my sleep, which is always good. Because let's face it, the wife is in charge. Happy wife, happy life. Can't give you any better advice than that. But the only reason they were made public instead of private is because my opponents wanted to watch them. So I was like, okay, I did the first one I did was I screwed up the audio bad, but the opponent that I had in it, he wanted to watch it. He wanted to show his girlfriend. He wanted to show the people at the store. So I was like, sure, I'll make it public because I didn't think anybody would care. And here we are, a year and a half later, give or take, and yeah, it's spiraled into this insanity. And you all know, if you've watched my battle reports for any amount of time, that I don't play Warriors of Chaos anymore. I burned out on them, plain simple and to the point. That's just how I am. And now I started playing Tomb Kings very shortly, like a month or so after I started playing Tomb Kings. Undead Legion came out, and I've been riding that happy trail for a while. And now Ninth Edition is about to release, and I have no idea where it's going to go. But that is pretty much how it's going. I dabbled in 40K throughout the years, but honestly, I don't like it. There's better skirmish games out there. I don't play any of them because I'm a Warhammer fantasy junkie, and it has nothing to do with being a fanboy or anything like that. It's just this is the particular game system that really clicks with me. I enjoy it. I've dabbled with some of the others, but they never really stick. They never really adhere with me or anything like that. Plus, going up there going up to the store only on Tuesdays and Saturdays, that's when fantasy is being played. So it's kind of hard to get another game in on the days I can go up there. So that's probably had something to do with it too. But again, no complaints. But yeah, I even with Ninth Edition right around the corner and the rumors being quote unquote confirmed by sources and stuff like that, even my group and guys that I talk with have shown letters and rumors and stuff like that, more or less confirming different things like round bases, bound, unbound, all these different speculations and half-heard things from this source. I heard from a guy who heard from a guy type of deals. And to be perfectly honest, I'm invested enough in Ninth Edition that I'm not going anywhere. I'm not quitting the game unless it's just unplayable. Unless it's just so god-awful terrible that it's not even worth my time or effort, which I really don't think it's going to. Even if the worst of the rumors is true and we have to put all of our models on round bases and there's 360 line of sight everywhere and magic is way overpowered or underpowered depending on your race, and the elves get all the glory and all the other races get shit on. And they delete every race that we love and we're stuck with nothing but nobblers versus saber tusk cats. It's just I'll probably find some way to enjoy the game. I don't believe it's going to be the apocalypse that everyone believes it's going to be. I believe it's going to be more change than the majority of us are ready for, but I'm probably still going to play it. I'm pretty invested. My gaming group is pretty solid. I'm sure we'll lose some. I'm sure we'll gain others. That's just the way of the world and the way things work. But I'll be around. I'll be around. There will be at least one Ninth Edition battle reporter come July. No, hell, I'm already paid for and registered for the Alamo GT, which I'm really excited about. I got in. I I'm really lucky that I got in. I got in just under the wire. I registered the night that it became open, but I sent the money to the wrong person and found out like a week later. It was really bad, but luckily I was able to get in and send in the money and get registered and okay, yeah, you got in. Lucky you. Just before it maxed out, and if you're gonna be at the Alamo, I'll see you there. We can do some ninth edition fun. You can earn a dice, a red one, a green one. Who knows what I'll have by then? But yeah, that is the journey that led me here. Abbreviated, if 20 plus minutes is abbreviated. Um, yeah, this was actually a really fun topic. I like these, Vince. I like these. I don't always like to do the opinion ones. In fact, this is probably the first one I've replied, for the topic of the week. But this was definitely a fun one, and I hope you guys enjoyed the journey. And if not, well, your money will be refunded to you. Just check the mail. It's on its way, I promise. But as always, guys, if you have any comments, concerns, questions, complaints, or anything else in between that you would like to throw at me, feel free to put them in the comment section below. As always, I will get back to you as quick as I can. And yeah, this was fun. Thanks.